speaker is going to discuss the current state of what we talked about earlier with the multifamily when I asked my question, which is job growth and job retention in the Tucson market. And we're fortunate to have Michael Guyman from TRIO here with us today. Michael is the Director of Economic Development for TRIO. He's a native Tucsonan, and he's spent 18 years in his professional career working on political strategy, business development, and advocacy. He's responsible for developing and implementing TRIO's business retention, recruitment, and expansion initiatives. It's a mouthful. His previous positions include serving as executive director of another group many of you know about, Metropolitan Pima Alliance, and numerous other public and private government and economic development positions. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Arizona. Michael.
I was going to use this forum to announce 20 new mattress firms coming to Tucson, but Michael Lash stole my thunder, so I'm not going to do that. I want to thank you very much for inviting me here this morning, and I was particularly interested and very heartened to hear that the Research Council is going to start to produce some of these reports again. The reason for that is because a lot of our business, when we're talking with companies that are looking to expand or relocate to this region, a lot of that is data-driven. The more data that we have, the better the job that we can do in selling this region. And so we use data like what is coming out of the Pima County Research Council, and so we really appreciate groups like this taking that on. So I wanted to mention that this morning. In terms of outlook, things are looking up. I mean, we've heard a lot of that this morning related to obviously a lot of these sectors, but even in our world of companies that are looking to expand or relocate, we're even seeing some uptick in activity there. Our unemployment is down. We are down to about 5.5%. We have seen, and I'll just list some of the companies that we've been working with very recently. Many of you have heard of the home goods expansion. We're very close to landing that. They're building a 1 million square foot facility down by the airport, and that is going to, at full maturity, add about 1,000 new jobs to this region. Target is expanding at their facility. They moved here about 5-6 years ago. Accelerate Diagnostics is a company that we recruited to Tucson about 3 years ago. This is a company that is developing a product that better diagnoses staph infections. The current technology takes about 4 or 5 days to diagnose that particular staph infection. Their technology takes it down to about 4 to 5 hours. They are taking their product, they're doing clinical trials right now, and they're taking their product to Europe this year, and they will be taking it to the US market next year. And so they're going to need to ultimately build that device. And it is great that we attracted them here. It is going to be somewhat of a challenge to keep them here, to retain them here. And I say that because I kind of want to segue into what I really want to focus on this morning when it comes to jobs, whether it's creation or traction of that talent. And that is the ways that we need to move forward in better preparing our workforce. So I sat down with Accelerate. And part of my job now is actually working with existing companies. Obviously, we have staff within TRIO that works with companies that are looking to expand or relocate into the market. But my job since last summer has really shifted to working with existing companies. And it's finding out two things. One, are you expanding? And if you are, there are programs both within the local jurisdictions here in Tucson as well as the state that can assist you with those expansions. Programs, job training programs, tax credit programs. We want to be the sales force for the localities and the state to make sure that these companies know that those products and services and initiatives, incentives exist. But the other question I asked them relates to talent. Is it easy or is it difficult to find talent in Tucson? And the answer, unfortunately, more often than not, is that it is difficult. We have a challenge when it comes to what is being produced, the great talent that is being produced at the Pima Community College and the University of Arizona, and matching that with the type of skills that some of these companies need. And the comment that Accelerate made to me was that they believe that they have tapped out the talent that exists in Tucson. So that is obviously concerning. What can we do to combat that? What can we do? What type of strategies do we need to employ to make sure that we are providing the type of talent locally that they need? So I want to get into what we are doing in our collaboration with the Workforce Investment Board. So this is a body that is appointed by the Pima County Board of Supervisors, and they are kind of the group historically that has been working on workforce development issues. People that serve on that board are our industry, but there are also some of our educational providers like U of A and Pima Community College. We are working closely with them to develop what are being called sector partnerships. Now, we have an example of a sector partnership that has been developed over the last, I would say, year and a half. And that is an organization called the Southern Arizona Manufacturing Partnership, okay? This was a group of about 22 aerospace and defense companies. And they got together and they were basically asked one simple question. What is the biggest gap? What is the biggest skills gap that you experience here in Tucson? And the answer that came back was machinists. We can't find a machinist in this region to save our lives. Companies like Sargent, who have a facility in the Guaymas area. They have about 70,000 square feet where they manufacture components down in Guaymas and then bring those components back up and do the final assembly here in Tucson. They can't swing a stick down in Guaymas without hitting a machinist. But they would prefer to have some of that ingrown talent right here in Tucson. And so those companies got together, they formed this partnership, and they worked then with JTED District and the Pima Community College, and the PCC now has a program where by the end of this year, it's a 2-year program, but by the end of this year, they're going to pump out 25 new machinists that are going to fill some of those needs. Now, that is a step. It's a baby step, but at least it is a step forward in trying to solve some of these talent issues. Understand, over 90% of relocations and expansions into new markets occur because those companies know that the talent in that location exists. The comment made earlier was that we're seeing some of the downsizing in some of the companies like Raytheon, which Taylor Lawrence spoke at our annual luncheon last October. And he said, we don't have to worry too much about what's going on at Raytheon other than what's happening with sequestration and other issues. But the comment was made that we're kind of replacing that with some call center or lower wage positions. The companies that we are working with and have attracted do fill some of those high wage and high tech skill sets. But we are also seeing a lot of movement in that low wage call center type industry. We at Trio don't pick up the phone and call the call center industry or the companies that are looking to relocate call centers. Those folks are calling us. Why are they calling us? Because they know that the talent in this, the workforce in this region exists for that. So again, with the manufacturing partnership example, we need to do more of that. We are, in terms of talent development, we are working now with creating a sector partnership in the construction and design industry. So Kurt Wadlington from SUNT and Rob Lamb from GLHN Architects have created a construction and design sector partnership. In April, we are going to work with the bioscience community, which Accelerate is going to be included in, but create a bioscience sector partnership that is going to try to answer some of those questions. What do we need to do in this region to answer the question, how do we align the demand that the employers need with the supply that's coming out of our higher educational institutions? So we are, again, collaborating with the Workforce Investment Board to do some of that work, to hopefully get to the point where we're doing a much better job of supplying the talent that these high-wage, high-tech companies need. A couple other initiatives. Last April, we unveiled our TRIO Blueprint update. In 2007, the TRIO Blueprint, which kind of acts as our economic development plan for the region, was adopted. We had the recession, as we've all talked about this morning, and the board of directors felt it was necessary to pull that document back, see what we need to do in certain areas to answer the question, what do we need to do as a region to become more competitive when it comes to these expansion relocation issues. And I talked about one of them. There were 4 areas. One of them was talent. So I talked about the strategies that we're employing for that. Another is infrastructure. We're working very closely with our partners like Tom McGovern with the Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Pima Association of Governments and the Southern Arizona Leadership Council, to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to create better infrastructure projects like the I-11, to advance projects like the Port of Tucson, some of the other infrastructure and logistical assets that we have here in Tucson. A couple other areas relate to healthcare, which we talked about a little bit this morning, which we see Mark Irvin talked about that, the advancement in that sector, and then just the sort of catch-all group, which is how to create a better business environment in Tucson. One other initiative I will talk about is a collaboration that we are embarking with some of our particularly broker and land use partners, Will White being one of them. Will talked about a little bit in his presentation the shovel-ready sites. Shovel-ready was a program that TRIO developed in 2006. We feel with initiatives like the home goods, we are seeing more and more companies, more and more projects in our pipeline that are build-to-suit options. And so we need to make sure that not only do we deliver to those companies the properties that exist in this region, but we also need to take a true inventory of those properties, which Will is helping with, and determine which of those properties are ready today, which of those properties could be ready in 6 months, which of those properties need significant infrastructure improvements like sewer and water and may not be ready for 2 years, but at least that will indicate to those either landowners or those jurisdictions the type of services that we need to provide to those pieces of property so that they truly can be marketable. So those are some of the initiatives I wanted to briefly talk about this morning. Again, I really appreciate the work that the Research Council is doing in assisting us in providing us with the data that we need, and I certainly want to thank you again for the invitation this morning.